For the benefit of those who do not understand my native language, our khutbah for today is the importance of halal and haram. That is knowing the difference between halal and haram. My brothers and sisters in deen, today we gather to reflect on the importance of halal, that is what is lawful, and haram, unlawful in our lives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in a verse of the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 88, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا. He said, and eat of what Allah has provided for you, which is lawful and good. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. And he said, you should fear your Lord, fear Allah, in whom you what? You are believers. This verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that we should eat from what He has made available for us. So meaning we are free to eat from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made available. But we must be very careful regarding what we consume, because He has told us that we should eat what is halal, what is lawful, and tayyiban, what is good. So as a believer, when you want to consume anything, you must be very, very careful. You have to ask yourself, you have to be sure, is this thing halal? Is it halal for me, or is it haram? Is it good? Is it from a good source? Is it something that is good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in support of, or is not in support of? Then He said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. And He said you should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whom you claim to believe in. So if you are a believer, you should fear Him and be careful of what you consume. My brothers and sisters, indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also listed to us things that are forbidden for us to eat. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ وَمَا أُهِلَّ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ بِهِ والمنخنقة والموقوذة والمتردية والنطيحة وما أكل السبع إلا ما ذكيتم وما ذبح على النصب. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, prohibited to you are dead animals, blood, the flesh of swine, وَمَا أُهِلَّ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ بِهِ. And what? And that which has been dedicated to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ وَالْمَوْقُوذَةُ وَالْمُتَرَدِّيَةُ وَالنَّطِيحَةُ. And He said what? And those animals that were killed by strangling, or by a violent blow, or by a headlong fall, or all by the goring of horns. And He mentioned so many things. وَالنَّطِيحَةُ وَمَا أَكَلَ السَّبْعُ إِلَّا مَا ذَكَّيْتُمْ وَمَا ذُبِحَ عَلَى النُّصُبِ. And He told us that what? وَمَا أَكَلَ السَّبْعُ إِلَّا مَا ذَكَّيْتُمْ. That what? And those from which a wild animal has eaten, except what you are able to slaughter before death, and those which are sacrificed on stone altars. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us the things that are prohibited for us to consume. And He mentioned a lot of things here. He said that we should be careful with dead animals. We shouldn't eat dead animals. We shouldn't consume blood. Today we see people who they make blood in different forms, and the people consume it. Some people even consume it like meat and so on. My brothers and sisters, indeed, this is very, very bad, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in support of it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear to us as well that we should be very careful with what? With swine. We shouldn't eat swine, that is pork, pig. And we should what? Be careful. We should not eat things that were dedicated, animals that were dedicated to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should also be careful with animals that were killed violently, or without following the normal procedure of slaughtering animals. My brothers and sisters in it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that we should also be careful with animals that were killed on stone altar, or animals that were partly eaten by other animals. My brothers and sisters, in this verse is making it clear to us what we can eat and what we cannot eat. And if you look at the pattern in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbids things and makes things lawful for us and makes things unlawful, you see that most times He spells out the unlawful ones. When our father, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and our mother Hawa were in Jannah, And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to eat from everything in the Jannah, but He told them, وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ. He said, وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ, that do not go close to this tree. So meaning, every other thing is lawful for them, but this particular tree. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always spells out whatever is unlawful for us. And that is what He has done in this verse. My brothers and sisters, indeed, let us try as much as possible to reflect on this verse and ask ourselves the question, what we are consuming. Are we consuming the halal? Are we eating what is halal? Are we all haram? Are we also doing what is halal or what is haram? Because our actions sometimes can make what is halal to become haram. And sometimes in some situations, what is halal, what is haram can become halal. But we do not pray to find ourselves in a situation where what is haram will become halal for us. But what I want you to understand is that your actions can make what is halal to become haram, in the sense that you have a business you are running and you are making money legitimately, but in the course of wanting to make extra gains, then you begin to defraud people, you begin to dupe them, you begin to deceive them. Then you are what? You are earning haram from what? From halal, because the business is halal, but your actions are making your earnings to become haram. And that is why you must be very careful. And when we are talking of halal and haram, it doesn't have to do with what you eat only. It has to do with some actions that you take too. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and make us those who will work towards achieving or consuming halal than haram, and make us to be those who will run away, far away from haram. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in a hadith that what? Al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyin. He said what? That the halal is clear and haram is clear. So meaning what is halal is clear and what is haram is clear. So if you see something that is halal, then there is no need for you to prohibit what has been made halal. And if there is something that is haram, there is no need for you to make what has been made haram lawful for people. So you must be very careful that you do not mix them together, because the Prophet ﷺ has told us that they are very clear. The Prophet ﷺ also warned us in a hadith that what? Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyiba. He said what? Certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good, and He only accepts what is good. He will not accept anything except what is good. So meaning whatever you want to do, you must make sure that it is what is good. It is what is acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't accept anything other than what is good, because He is good. So my brothers and sisters, indeed, we should strive to do what is good. We should strive to eat what is good. We should strive to make ends, to source for our living from what is good. And also do not make our source of living that is halal to become haram for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told us in Surah Al-A'raf, chapter 7, verse 32, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ, that ask, O Prophet, who has forbidden the adornment and lawful provisions Allah has brought forth for His servants. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ, that is, and what is good, that's what is good. But what is good, what Allah has made brought out for, who is that person that has forbidden it for us? Then He said, قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. He said, say, they are for the enjoyment of the believers in this worldly life, but they will be exclusively theirs on the day of judgment. Meaning this enjoyment, it is for those who believe in this worldly life, but there is no way those who do not believe will also not enjoy this life. They will enjoy whatever Allah has made available, has provided for us in this life. But Allah is telling us that khalisatan yawm al-qiyamah, that it will be exclusively for those who believe on the day of resurrection. So that is why when the rain falls, the believer and the non-believers will enjoy. When the sun shines, the believer and the non-believers will enjoy. When it is summer, we all enjoy it. When it is winter, we all enjoy it. So whatever your belief is, it doesn't stop you from enjoying what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made available. you breathe in, the air we breathe in is free from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So irrespective of if you believe or do not believe, you will enjoy it. So this is what Allah said. But He said, khalisatan yawm al-qiyamah. But it will be exclusively for those who believe on the day of resurrection. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. Now He said, this is how we make our revelations clear for people of knowledge. Meaning this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make His revelation, make His signs clear for those who have knowledge, for those who can think, for those who have understanding. My brothers and sisters, indeed, let us try as much as possible to also let us strive to distinguish between halal and haram. Let us avoid doubtful matters. And as our Prophet ﷺ has told us, he told us in a hadith that what? دَعْ مَا يُرِيبُكَ إِلَّا مَا يُرِيبُكَ. He said what? Leave what makes you doubt, or what is doubtful, for what? For what you are sure of, what is not doubtful. So you must make sure that you avoid anything. So if you are presented with something and you've been hearing rumors of it containing what is haram, maybe alcohol or something, or what, or intoxicant, or maybe you are hearing that this kind of meat it contains, or it is the meat of pork, or what all the other animals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden for us, or you are told that this animal was not killed by anybody, it died by itself, and you are not sure and you are doubting, the best thing for you to do is to avoid, is to leave it. You go for the one that you are sure of. So this way you will save yourself from problem. So this is what this hadith is teaching us. Then my brothers and sisters, indeed, let us know that consuming haram has consequences. And that is why we must be very, very careful. There is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ was telling his Sahabas about a man. They said, ثُمَّ ذَكَرَ الرَّجُلَ يُطِيلُ السَّفَرَ أَشْعَثَ أَخْبَرَ يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. Now the Prophet ﷺ gave them example. He told them about a man who has journeyed so far. أَشْعَثَ أَخْبَرَ يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. He's very tired from the journey, and very hungry and very weak due to the journey. Then he said, يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. Then he raised his hands towards the sama, the sky, the heaven, and he said, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi. And he said, my Lord, my Lord. وَمَطْعَمُهُ حَرَامٌ. And he's eating, what's feeding, what he eats is haram. وَمَشْرَبُهُ حَرَامٌ. And what he drinks is haram. وَمَلْبَسُهُ حَرَامٌ. And his clothing is haram. وَغُذِّيَ بِالْحَرَامِ. And his flesh, his body has now become what? Haram. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. Then how will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or how will he be answered? So meaning, if you consume haram, if you are somebody who has gone too deep into haram, you should begin to what? Trace your steps back. You should begin to go far from haram. Because when you consume haram to an extent, you will become haram yourself. This is what this hadith is teaching us. And that is why you must avoid haram. By all means, whether what you eat, what you earn, whichever way you can avoid haram, make sure you avoid haram. Because when haram becomes part of you, yourself will become haram. And when you raise your hands to ask Allah for something, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not answer your dua, because you are what? You have become haram as a result of your actions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and ease our affairs. And we must also understand that our actions can make what is halal to become haram for us. So we must be very careful with our intentions and our actions as well. Because if you are going out every day with the intention to dupe your customers, when you get to your place of work or to your shop, then you should understand that you are making that source, that business that is halal, you are making it haram for yourself. Your earnings will become haram because you are what? You are deceiving people, because you are not being sincere with people. And my brothers and sisters, indeed, I want you to understand that if you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He will make way out for you. No matter how difficult it is for you to survive on halal, make sure that you rely on Allah and call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He has told us that what? That وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. That whoever relies on Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for him. So if you rely on Him, then He will what? He will be enough, He will be sufficient for you. Then He told us somewhere too that if you fear Him, He said, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. That if you fear Him, then He will make a way for you out. So meaning, my brothers and sisters, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. consume what is halal, avoid what is haram, and rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will make a way out for you, and it will be enough for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and make us people who will fear Him, people who will do things for His sake only, not people who will do things for the sake of other things. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people who would run towards halal and run away from haram. Make us people whose mind will be attached towards what is good, towards what is lawful, and what will be distant towards what is bad and towards what is unlawful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على آلائه ونعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون قوموا إلى الصلاة